a good Monday evening, everybody. We're grateful to see you back here with us on our actual regular show tonight, Mac Files Late Night. We're grateful to have our dear buddy Jeemes Akers with us tonight, and we hope you really had the chance to listen to our early bird special with Olivia Floyd tonight. That testimony she gave was really powerful in our faith special, but we're just grateful to have you tonight late if you're here with us, and it's good to see my dear buddy Jeemes Akers. Man, I hope you're doing well. I know that we got a pretty good wallop this weekend. How did y'all fare up there in Ohio with this snow? We got about 8 inches down here in Tennessee. How you doing tonight?
Doing fine. We're expecting. My wife just came in, said they're giving more snow coming in, and it hasn't. We had a heat wave today. It got up around 20 degrees. There is nothing melting, so we have the snow on the ground, and it's not going anywhere.
Same here. Same here. Well, we got up to about a couple of degrees higher than you did today. Same here. And now we're not getting the snow. I think it's supposed to warm up here tomorrow, here at least. But if the temperature don't warm up, we could be well having another round of it here down here too. It's wintertime, man. It's wintertime. And it is what it is. Hey, I wanted to talk to you tonight. Several things going on in the country, and we have just witnessed a chaotic, just unbelievably chaotic week in the country. And James, these places of worship are still being attacked by these protesters in Minneapolis. But there's a more disturbing trend, I think, that's taking place. And I want to get your take on this. The media seems to be controlling the narrative that ICE is, basically the evil force of the world right now. And this demonization of law enforcement, this demonization of people that are trying to keep us safe, to me is just plain witchcraft, to be frank with you. And it is an all-out war on lawfulness instead of recognizing what's lawless and what's evil compared to what's right. And we know we're faith folks, and when people start calling evil good and good evil, Isaiah the prophet said there's a woe to that. But you really have apostasy when a nation does this. And I see us doing it, and it scares me. It really bothers me that reasonably thinking people cannot see the difference between what is trying to be done to uphold the law as compared to what's being done to break the law. And we're going to get more into this tonight. But I want to get your take on that and some other things. But, buddy, we have got to these ICE agents are in great danger tonight trying to do their job, and I'm surprised that we've not had more violence against them than already has been perpetrated.
Yeah, it's disturbing what's going on, and you're right. There's been a narrative created that places these young men and women who are just trying to uphold the law in 99.9% of the cases, and they're being placed in harm's way by an agenda that wants chaos in this country, that wants lawlessness. I had a friend that sent me an article from Bill O'Reilly, who I hadn't heard from in a long time, with a claim that a lot of this activity and the groups behind all of this lawlessness and what's going on, especially in Minnesota, are funded by some individuals in China. And he says he asks a really interesting question. Now, whether all of that's true or not, I'm not completely sure, but he asked a real good question. Where is the New York Times and the Washington Post investigating this sort of stuff? who is providing the money for these provocateurs and other people that are stirring the pot up there. Why isn't somebody pursuing a Pulitzer Prize in editorial offices to dig into the background of what's going on there? It's almost like there's an agenda promoting lawlessness.
You're absolutely correct, and I think that answer to that question is never going to be answered because the media, Jeemes, is not going to do that. They're doing everything they can tonight, again, to demonize the people that are trying to keep the country safe. And it's on all levels. It's television, it's print. They're never going to investigate that and get to the bottom of who's behind it, because if we do, then it throws the scab off the real reason. And I think it destroys the narrative tonight that the American people are more upset with ICE than they are the lawbreakers. There's a poll out tonight, and I think Carolyn Levitt mentioned it today, and it was on some of the conservative websites. 71% of the country believe that if you're here illegally, if you come here illegally, you're breaking the law. Well, that's 7 out of 10 people. And that means that only a third of the country is on board with the fact that these illegal aliens have a right to be here. And then 61% believe that ICE is doing a good job in enforcing the law, and that we are in danger of the rapists, the murderers, the most criminal element of this, and they need to be deported immediately. That, too, is not what we're hearing in the media, because all we're hearing in the media and on these podcasts, these soapboxes or whatever you call them, they're claiming that the country's real upset and everybody's demanding ICE be unmasked, and the Democrats are shutting the government down on it tonight. And that's why they're not going to investigate it, buddy, because it destroys their narrative. It destroys the media's narrative. It destroys MSNBC's narrative, or MS Now is what they call it now. It destroys CNN. It destroys George Stephanopoulos. So to get to the truth of it, you stop the lies. And that's where we as the public, we as the conservative public, we as the Christian community have got to be a louder voice than that. And we have got to scream it and show the truth. Now, whether the people believe it or not, that's going to be a whole different discussion. And I don't think me or Jeemes Akers, either one, can figure that one out, because there's a lot of smart thinking people that are coming down on the wrong side of this argument.
Yeah, no, I agree. We have long since lost this whole idea that news organizations are supposed to provide news for people, a population that can think critically to make up their own minds about the news. Now all you get is spin, narrative, and events that are twisted to suit an agenda. And it's killing us as a country. I'm not saying that every person in newsrooms around the country are bad people, but it just seems like the momentum of this thing favors lawless elements in this country, and nobody is willing to dig into the deeper story underneath as to why this is, who is funding it. I think largely because they're afraid of the answers they'll come up with.
Well, let me ask you a couple of blunt questions. Do you believe, like I do, and you may see it differently, but if you look at the media and the talking points, if you go from one network to the next, like if you go to CNN, then you go to MSNBC, you go to CBS, ABC, they all repeat the same thing. So that tells me that they're being handed these talking points by somebody. And whether it's George Soros or somebody more nefarious than him even, I've always felt like that George Soros is not the top of the food chain. I think that there's even a higher up food chain than George Soros. But it is evident, James, that they're repeating stuff. They're just parrots. They just repeat the same thing from network to network, and it's almost like a talking point parrot thing. And and we've seen videos of this where one story will get on even local. I was listening to our local news over the weekend, and I think it was Friday night late, and the local ABC News affiliate here was literally repeating something I just heard on X just an hour or two before, verbatim. I mean, line by line from the liberal network. And the other thing I'm going to ask you is about the situation in Minneapolis with these two individuals that seems to have gotten the country all riled up. Do you believe that Renee Good was culpable in her own death? In other words, do you believe that what she did threatened those ICE officers enough that they had a right to defend themselves? Same way with Alex Peretti. Because I'm okay with coming down on the fact that those ICE agents, they were totally justified in what they did. And I know that it's bad. We don't like it. We hate that somebody got killed. But dadgummit, I'm so sick of hearing this narrative that these were outstanding citizens, that there was no nefarious feelings they had toward ICE, that ICE just shot people in cold blood, ICE just murdered people in cold blood, and ICE just did this deliberately, and they're just a bunch of thugs, and they're a secret police, and they're Nazis, and all this stuff. I'm so sick of hearing it. Because these people were not fine, outstanding citizens in what they were doing. And I'm not screaming at you, my brother, but I'm getting on my soapbox on this Monday night. What's your thoughts on all that?
No, to tell you the truth, I probably don't know as much about the details of all of these situations as much as I should. But to me, the narrative that ICE is a bunch of thugs that are just out to harm legal, law-abiding citizens is to me just plain crazy. And the more, and like you say, it's just a minority of individuals that are trying to shape the narrative that way. And if the American people, well, it was Joseph Goebbels during the Hitler years that said if you tell people a lie long enough, they're going to believe it.
They're going to believe it. James, that's exactly right. And that's what's happening. Look, we've got Joseph Goebbels would turn over in his grave. He would actually wish he was back, be resurrected, and come back to this time to have this media behind him. Can you imagine Hitler and Joseph Goebbels with this media back in the 1930s and 1940s pushing their agenda? Can you imagine how hard it would have been? It was hard enough to defeat the fascists and the Nazis back then. Can you imagine having Hitler having an X account or Hitler having MSNBC to spew his venom on? They would welcome it in a heartbeat because they're doing the same stuff tonight.
Yeah, no, I agree that there's an agenda being played out here, and in my view, and I know there are a ton of people who disagree with me. In my view, it is a neo-Marxist mindset that thrives on chaos, thrives on finding an oppressor class, thrives on anti-Christian rhetoric, thrives on anti-Semitic rhetoric.
Come on.
And those voices control the primary newsrooms in America today.
Without a doubt.
And you have what we've had is a distillation of media ownership so that almost all the television stations and the newspapers are owned by a conglomerate of seven families or so, and they all get together and they put out a narrative, and everybody has to march in lockstep with that narrative. And for years, in colleges and universities and other things, that narrative has been shaped by left-leaning professors and thinkers, and we are starting to bear the fruit of all of that groundwork that has been laid for decades. And it is all to promote anti-Christian, anti-American themes. That I believe that, and it would be hard to convince me otherwise. And everything I see with news reports and what's going on only confirms that belief in my mind.
No, I'm with you 1,000%. Do you believe that the just shootings were justified in your opinion?
I don't know enough about it to say. I'll just be flat honest there. It's hard for me though to line up my sympathies with lawbreakers
Absolutely.
and say that to feel pity for people that are essentially lawbreakers, that put these law enforcement officials in these compromising positions, and the media that constantly rallies uh, uh, on the side of people who are lawbreakers.
No, I'm with you, buddy. No, I'm with you. And
it
let me just
doesn't
rephrase
make
my
sense.
let me rephrase my question. Do you believe that what Renee Good did and what Alex Peretti did was a legitimate threat to, and you just sort of alluded to it, that they were breaking the law in what they did, trying to run over an ICE agent with a van, and then Peretti bringing a gun? I don't care if he had a license for it or not. That'd be like me saying I got a license to carry my gun and carrying it into a grocery store and waving it around and then justifying it by saying, well, I had a right to carry this gun around. That's about as stupid as an individual jumping off a building and telling everybody, well, I thought that they would catch me if I jump off, you know? I mean, it's stupid. But do you believe that they were threatened? I do. I see it. I see it, and no, I got no sympathy. I hate to say it tonight. Look, I'm sorry for their families, but James, when it comes down to the way the media's framed this compared to what I see it, and I think most reasonably thinking people see it, no sympathy, brother. I hate to say it. No sympathy. None.
Well, I always regret when there's a loss of life, no matter who's right or wrong. But in these cases, you are placing these law enforcement, and they're not perfect individuals. I mean,
No.
they're probably there's probably a scum factor involved there. You know, it's certainly not to the extent that the media would have you believe, but you're placing good individuals who are trying their best to preserve what's left of law and order in this country. You're placing them in impossible, compromising situations, one after the other. The media cherry picks all of these cases that they can draw attention to, and it's. I think we share this belief. It's just absolutely disgusting, the narrative they're trying to create around all of this.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Let me ask you this about this unmasking of ICE, because this is a big demand that the Democrats are making. Schumer got on his little soapbox yesterday or Friday when they were trying to open the government back up. and said that, that they've got to have body cams, like that's going to make a difference with all the phone cameras out there. No, none of them need body cams. They've got to unmask, put their names on their jackets. So they're already being doxxed as it is, James. They're already being put in danger by these goons, and that's what they are. They're a bunch of goons. They're a bunch of demonic, possessed loons, demonically possessed monsters that are putting I'm talking about officials too that are doing it. Teachers are doing it. Legislators are doing it. People in the media is doing it. They're doxing these agents, putting their families in danger. They're already in danger enough, but the Dems just basically want them to take off their masks. Isn't it amazing to you and hypocritical that 4 years ago, 5 years ago now, they were all for masks, but now all of a sudden, masks are evil. That shows you the demonic hypocrisy of the Democrat Party that needs to be outlawed, according to my friend Eric Caron, and I say amen to that. As a terrorist group.
Well, I understand the sentiment. I'm not sure I agree with the logic of it, but yes, the whole idea that you can reveal the names and residences of honest officers trying to enforce the law and make them
We lost James for a second. Bear with us, folks. Bear with us. Hang on just a second. All right, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to call him back. Got to call him back. Lost the signal there, so bear with us here just a second. If you're just joining us, we're talking to Jeemes Akers, former CIA analysis, our dear buddy. Never fails, we're going good, and the phone breaks down or something breaks down. Maybe he'll pick up the phone here. Anyway, let's see here if he'll see that we're calling him back. Hang on just a second here. We're trying to get him. There we go. Let's try it again here. Let's see if he can answer this one. Sorry about it. If you're watching this, you're watching a very special Mac Files late night special. We got some videos going to come up here in just a second. Talk to you, get your thoughts on all this tonight. We're talking to our dear buddy Jeemes Akers on a Monday night, late night CIA, former CIA analysis. There he is, buddy. We lost you there. We There we go. We were talking about the unmasking of ICE and Schumer wanting body cams. Are you on board with that? Because they're already being doxxed, James.
No, and I said I think I got lost in when I got cut off there, but to me it's just reprehensible what's going on, especially when you have honest, law-abiding individuals that are trying to uphold the law, whose names are being listed so that they can become targets of this agenda that's working against law and order in this country. To me, it's a situation I could not have imagined 10 years ago.
I couldn't have either. Roger Hooker's got a good question, though. I don't want to run this by you. It's an excellent question, and I got my thoughts on it, but I want to get yours. He says, do you believe protesting is protected constitutionally? He said the Constitution says we have the right to assemble peaceably, and he's absolutely right. But, James, it does not give you the right to threaten law enforcement with guns. What these people are doing in protesting is throwing rocks and bottles and spitting and making threats and doxing and basically putting people's lives in danger. Where's the fine? Is there a fine line in your opinion of that, or is it more black and white than what we're really saying, and what's going on in Minneapolis is not constitutional? I know there's a lot of people that's a gray area for some, but that he's right in that Constitution protects you from protesting peaceably. But that's the key word right there, is peaceably. And none of this is peaceable.
Yeah, I agree. There's One of the strengths of our republic is the right for people to assemble. You take away that right for either side of the political spectrum, and this democracy starts to disappear. You have the right to assemble and make your petitions known, but it is a peaceful process, and you are not guaranteed the right to bring in rifles with multiple clips and shoot at police officers and say that you're exercising your protest rights. No, that is not the way it should work.
And on that note, I'm going to ask you about Don Lemon, because that's his defense. And I want to make it clear, we got a clip by Paul Morrow tonight after we let you go. Paul Morrow made a great point. Don Lemon was not just arrested for what he did last weekend, he was indicted. And that means that the Justice Department was smart in taking it to a grand jury outside of Minnesota. He got indicted for constitutional rights violations, but he's claiming that he had a right to peaceably go in there and protest ICE in a church. And I think that is the most twisting and the most demon idea that you can get, that you've got a right to disrupt a worship service and then hide behind the right to assemble. But that's how they're twisting the laws on us. They're mocking us. And you mentioned the Christianity thing the other day, earlier tonight. They are mocking Christians when they do these in these churches. And they're doing it even, there's been other churches since this that has been basically, people have walked into and just started screaming obscenity and profanity and everything else. And that, to me, is not covered under the Constitution, brother. I hate to tell folks, that is not covered under the Constitution, is it?
No, I don't think so either, and I don't know of any constitutional lawyer that thinks that. I know there are a number of neo-Marxist thinkers that advocate that, because the end goal is to sow seeds of chaos and lawlessness, and so the end justifies the means. But in terms of constitutional rights, and in terms of just basic Christian decency, no, there's a line to be drawn there, and pretty soon this divide is going to come to the point where you're going to have to stand your ground and say what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. We live in a country where nobody's willing to say and label wrongdoing for what it is.
That's the key right there. The lines have been so blurred, Jeemes. Look, I've had Christian believers not be able to separate good from evil in this. And I don't care. It's just my opinion. And again, people can, like you always say, there may be some that disagree with it. Me and you have got that understanding, because we understand that not everybody's going to adhere to maybe the way we look at this. And I know not everybody will do this about Renee Good. If you can't look at the situation and see that what her actions were evil in trying to run that officer over, you got a bigger problem than MSNBC. And for a Christian not to be able to discern good and evil, brother, you got something greater wrong with this nation than even the ICE situation. You got apostasy on your hands. Because once you start going down a road that you call good evil and evil good, and again, like you said, ICE is not perfect. They probably could have handled things better in some ways. But again, I am a staunch supporter of law enforcement. And unless there is an actual clear-cut case of the law enforcement acting out of line. And I know that they do sometimes, but James, a lot of these actions that are deemed evil by the public is basically just split-second decisions that have to do with them. Either it's their life or the criminal's life, or it's just people that are attacking them. And I got a lot of sympathy for law enforcement because, look, they put their lives on the line for less money than football players make, brother. And it's not fair because their life is worth more than a few $100s. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we pay football players triple, 3 times, 4 times, 10 times, 20 times more than the people that are trying to protect us from evil. Something's wrong with this country. Something's wrong with this country.
Yeah, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head right there. There's the old structure, the basic Judeo-Christian values, which everyone shared in common decades ago. Notions of what's right and wrong, of basic decency. I mean, even of language. I mean, if you walk down the street and there's a group of girls that pass you by now they're using language which used to make a sailor blush, and it's accepted. And if you go to a movie, you know it's just crammed with like F words anymore. There's been a complete loss of social decorum in this country, and it permeates down to these sorts of situations where we expect underpaid law enforcement officials to be spit on, stuff thrown at them, called every name in the book, and yet we expect them to act with the utmost restraint in those situations.
Well, I'm with you.
Yeah. And to me, it's just an indicator of where we have come as a society, and this isn't the end of it. This is the beginning.
The beginning of it, James. I was about to say, I think you're hitting it right there. You're hitting it on the head. That we're just beginning to see the beginning of this. This is not the ultimate. We're not at the plateau of this yet, and I think it's going to get worse. And look, if these Dems take power, and brother, there's indications Republicans better wake up. They lost a state Senate seat in the heart of Trump country over the weekend. This guy won by 15% over his opponent. Now, there was some extenuating factors there. But our margin in the House now is down to 1 vote because of traitor Republicans quitting and special elections. And if we're not careful, James, we're going to lose the majority before Trump even has the midterms. And I'm telling you, we better wake up. And I don't see any of that happening. Folks, if you got a question or two for James, we're going to keep him for a few more minutes. Go ahead and put your questions in, and we're not going to keep you long tonight because it's already 11 o'clock, but we are going to take a few questions. And tomorrow night, we got Andy Berger coming, and we'll do some videos for her after her show. But, James, I want to ask you about Iran tonight. You know, last time we talked last week, you didn't believe that we were going to see any kind of action in Iran. Do you still hold to that tonight, or do you believe that Trump is saber-rattling, or do you think that he's getting ready to do something with them? There's supposed to be some kind of secret meeting going on in Turkey this week. I don't know if it's going to bring any fruit, but 36,500 people were killed in 48 hours. And there was a post that I found tonight, and I thought it was very intriguing. Not one mention of that last night at the Grammys about the slaughter of innocent people in Iran. The only thing that was being said, I didn't watch the Emmys, and I didn't really care to, but it's amazing how they spent their time, as you said, using the F word about ICE, but they never mention anything about the devastating loss of life in Iran. And that, again, is where we're at as a country, correct?
That's absolutely correct. Here's my take on Iran, and what I said on your last program was basically that I thought that President Trump had surrendered the high moral ground. We, in my mind, a legitimate use of military power would have been to go in and protect the protesters.
Correct.
That window of time has passed. So now you have this tremendous American force that's gathered off the shore of Iran, but you cannot use military force. It seems to me, although we make this mistake over and over again, without a clear political objective in mind. So you can't. I would argue that even though you have the power to do something, it doesn't legitimize the use of that power unless you have a compelling reason to do it. And in my mind, the window of time for us to use American power in the Iranian situation has passed. What policy goals are you going to achieve now if you go in having stood by and watched all of these protesters being mowed down, executed by the regime, and had done nothing because all of your partners in the Middle East didn't want you to act, and now you're in a situation where if you go in, you're going to look like a pure aggressor. They're going to get mileage in the world court of the public opinion and everything else. And I just think, Chris, that our window of opportunity has passed. So that doesn't mean that Trump won't try a strike against certain elements in the country that we put on the terrorist list, or that are doing things that are detrimental to their own population. But he now has to be much more careful about how he uses American power than he would have several weeks ago. That's my point.
I understand that. Do you feel like that if he does the meeting is Friday in Turkey, do you think that can he save the situation at all? I mean, what could he do to bring this? Is there anything that he could do that he could bring the situation back to where we've got a chance to save what life there is? Because they're going to keep killing people to me. I mean, I just think that what they're doing over there, and I've always been concerned about this, James, is that there's such an apocalyptic regime that they're not going to go down without any kind of doing something. I mean, they're going to blow the whole thing to the Middle East. I mean, they're going to blow the whole thing together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and we had we had the advantage a few I don't know how many weeks ago, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and we just of course Trump had a number of other things going on. He's still trying to mediate this Russian-Ukrainian situation. He went into Nicaragua, and so there were a number of things vying for his attention. I get that, but there was a clear moral high ground for America to use its power, and I'm just afraid that window has passed.
Okay. Okay.
And that's my view. That doesn't rule out some sort of surgical strike against certain elements in Iran, and we sort of declare victory and then back out again. But I think the window of opportunity is passed.
One final thing before I let you go. I didn't watch the Grammys last night, but we had something unprecedented happen, and maybe you didn't know about it, but I'll just get your opinion about it, and then I'll let you go. Kajani Brown Jackson, our illustrious Biden appointee on the Supreme Court, made history last night, being the first Supreme Court justice that ever attended that event, which was nothing but a Hate America event for 3 hours. Just the clips I've seen, nothing but hate ice, F ice. The only redeeming moment was Jelly Roll. I'm serious. He got a Grammy and got up there and gave praise to Jesus. He called Jesus out. He said, Jesus has changed my life. And you could hear boos. You could hear the boos and hisses in the crowd. And so why would a Supreme Court justice be in a place, and she was applauding every time that you would hear F ice, F ice, you could see her face, and she was literally applauding. Jeemes, that disqualifies her to me. She's not going to do it, but that woman needs to be removed from the bench and resign immediately. She's not going to do it, and the Republicans don't have the kahunas to do it. But it's a terrible, 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 terrible disgrace to have a Supreme Court justice doing that and then claim that she's impartial in her rulings on the bench. That's just me. I'll let you wrap us up on that.
Well, I'm not far behind you on that one. Maybe she was there to learn the definition for what a woman was. You know.
Well, she doesn't know what a definition of a woman is, and maybe she got it mixed up, brother. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, listen.
In terms of her being on the bench, I just think that is just another indicator of this downward social spin that we're in. There was a time, Chris, and I'm not going to kick this dog around too much longer. There was a time, and it wasn't long ago, when the Supreme Court was one of the most respected institutions in this country.
Yes, it was.
And along with the rest of government and other entities in Washington, it is quickly going down the tubes of respect. And in law school, there was sort of a rule of thumb that we had, that what holds this marvelous legal structure that we have created in this country, what keeps it aloft, functional, and the envy of the rest of the world, is the respect of all the citizens for law, and that it'll be applied with some sort of equality and fairness. And if you look at the polls, the American people are losing confidence in our legal institutions. And that, my friend, spells danger for the future.
Buddy, couldn't have said it better. I appreciate you being with us tonight. And listen, maybe if something breaks this week, we'll have you back on. But we'll definitely have you back on soon. And I hope to see you soon down here in my direction, and I'll be coming your direction when this weather warms up. Sorry, keep that snow and 20-degree weather in the day up there with you, okay? I love you, but you keep that mess up there, and I'll see you in the spring, man, when the baseballs are flying out of Cincy ballpark. Now they may be flying out from the other team, the way Cincy pitches, but at least we'll see baseballs leaving the stadium, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward. I'm one of these guys that I love the first snowfall, and then I am ready for spring.
Bingo! I just told my wife that tonight.
So long here that it is just demoralizing to go out there and try to start a car and it just growls and I'm ready for this weather to break, brother, so I can feel like a human being again and get outside.
Me too, but it's been a rough winter, man. It's been a tough winter. As Ken Rich said, or John Rich sang about, global warming's freezing us to death. That's all I got to say. Al Gore somewhere freezing tonight, still swearing up and down the world's going to end because of global warming. So go figure. Go listen to Al Gore on this. Buddy, God bless you. I'm going to let you go and get to these folks and get out of here tonight. God bless you, and I'll see you down the road, my friend.
Okay, Chris. Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
You'll be on again soon. God bless you, buddy.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Blessings. Bye.
Jeemes Akers, everybody, put some fire in that house. Goodness gracious. That's my buddy. That is my buddy. And we're so grateful to have him tonight. And we have got so much to talk about this week. I'm not going to be able to get to all of it tonight. I do want to just play. We've been going right at an hour and a little over 15 minutes. And if you'll give me, actually, we've been going just 48 minutes. So we've not even been going an hour. So I'm going to go about 10 more minutes if you don't mind. Put some fire in that house for him if you enjoy Jeemes tonight. We're grateful. And folks, we are seeking the Lord. I think every Christian is seeking the Lord tonight, to be frank with you. I don't think anybody that has any kind of faith is not doing that, and I'm with you. But I think that is what most Christians are doing. Anyway, Diane, your question about any news on China, Jeemes sort of alluded to it tonight. The Chinese may be behind these protests. And we're trying to get to the bottom of that. I don't doubt that. Xi Jinping is okay from what I understand. I mean, he was out there posting today. But look, we're in a spiritual war in this country over entities. And we're in a spiritual war with many nations, China being one of them, without a doubt. But we're in a spiritual war with ourselves. We are in a spiritual war with Satan. And China's just a tool. Folks, all these people, Soros, China, the media, the left, the Dems, and everybody that wants to make everybody the boogeyman, the real enemy is Satan. The real enemy is Satan, bottom line. And he is doing a work and a number on our people. But what scares me to death are the people that's listening to him and believe in his lies. And I'm not saying that in judgment tonight, folks. None of us are exempt from falling for his deceptions. And this arrogance in the church is going to be the death of us. This arrogance and smugness in the church is going to be the death of most people. That they think they're above this deception, they're above all this, and they can wade through it. Listen to me. Good-meaning believers are falling victim to this tonight. We better be diligent, and we better take Paul's advice, where he says, let them take heed that think they stand, lest they fall. And if you think you're standing tonight, and you've got this arrogant feeling, well, this ain't going to affect me, you're headed for a fall. You're headed for a fall. We're talking about this every single morning in our Bible study. This is the theme we've been talking about in our morning studies for 4 months now. It's what got Israel in so much trouble. It's what gets Christians in trouble. It's what's going to get this nation in trouble. And but I'm telling you, we are in a war. It's a spiritual war. It's witchcraft. It's witchcraft powers. This stuff the Dems are doing is high level. I'm talking about upper spiritual realm levels of witchcraft. We said this Friday night with Leslie Millwee. And we as believers, we've got to stand in the gap. We just do. We got to stand in the gap. But Christians, I think, true Christians believe that Jesus is the answer. We get that. We get that. I get it. And this show don't promote any other source but that. Because without Christ, this nation's doomed. But we better be understanding of the fact that there's a lot of people that are succumbing. Good, well-meaning people are succumbing to these spirits, and they're succumbing to this fog, this blindness that is on so many. And again, the inability for people to see evil from good and good from evil should disturb us all. Should disturb us all. And I'll leave it at that. And JC, the arrogant judges, you're absolutely right. The judges are arrogant, and this judiciary, as it's a well-said statement, I'm not going to disagree with you. These arrogant judges is part of the witchcraft, my friend. It's part of the witchcraft. They're trashing our legal system. Our legal system is in tatters right now. You cannot get a fair shake. A liberal will walk into a courtroom. Don Lemon walked in, walked out. There was a panel of judges that tried to keep him from even going to jail. But the Bondi Department of Justice was smart. As I said, they got an indictment. They did not just arrest him, but they got an indictment. I'm going to let Paul Mercuro explain this. This is very well. So I'm glad you brought that up. Speaking of that, roll the tape.
Hey guys, Paul Morrow here again for OpsDesk.org, doing a 3-minute recap on all things security related for Friday, 30 January 2026. Here we go. So, as we've all heard by now, Don Lemon indicted, not just arrested, indicted by a grand jury of his peers in Minnesota, a blue district. Why does that matter? Well, it means that DOJ got past these federal judges in Minnesota who were protecting this guy. All right. They took it to a grand jury. They got a true bill, and now he's under arrest. Now, there's a couple of nuances here. First of all, the idea that somehow or other being a journalist protects you when you commit criminal activity is ridiculous. Don't entertain it for a second. By that metric, you could embed yourself, let's say, with a burglary crew, break into banks or something, and say, well, because I filmed it for a documentary, I'm absolved. I have immunity. Of course not. Think about where that would lead. It's ridiculous. Don't entertain it for a second. Another thing, if you look at the indictment itself, it's pretty bad. I mean, if he did half of what's in there, he deserves to go to jail. But notice something also. There's 2 names redacted. Why? Are they cooperators? Do they have flips already? In fact, are those 2 names people that they put into the grand jury to get the indictment? I'll tell you why that could be really important, because one of the charges is a conspiracy charge, which means this person, if they are flips, can lay out how they all communicated. Part of a conspiracy is you got to demonstrate how they all conspired. When was the meeting of the minds? Which means you can get into the phones. You can get probable cause on the phone, the computers, etc., to see how they all talk to each other. The point is this. Don Lemon, in pulling this stunt, may very well have opened a door to at least a section of this entire NGO activist world that are all communicating online and on Signal, etc. If they can get into his phone, you can lay all of that open. By pulling this stunt, he may actually have blown the whole thing open a bit. The other thing he's done here is by claiming a racial aspect to it. He's talked about how the people in the church are white supremacists and all this other stuff. Well, first of all, he's opened himself up to a serious defamation lawsuit from where I sit. But secondly, by putting a racial animus into it, he's not even aware, I don't think, that he's aggravated his potential sentencing. Even if they don't charge him as a hate crime, as an overlay, because I don't know if it's going to apply under the charges that they have now. The enhancement, the hate crime enhancement, could come in at sentencing. And so if it gets that far, and it might, because I don't think this guy's going to plea, and I don't think DOJ's in the mood for a plea here, an aggravating factor could be that he used this sort of racial overtones to try to justify the whole thing. Now, I just want to mention that if you have not signed up for the Ops Desk newsletter, you should, because we called all this exactly about a week ago, including the exact charges. If you read the newsletter article from about a week ago, how much trouble is Don Lemon in? It looks literally like the indictment that dropped today. You should check it out, because I think this one's only at the beginning. Paul Morrow for the Ops Desk.
And I want to show you this. This is how Don Lemon looks at it. He's mocking us. He's mocking Christianity. I want you to look at this right here. He maniacally, I don't have the video. This was off of the Gateway Pundit. We should have played the video for you. It was very, speaking of arrogance, Don Lemon maniacally laughs, says he's going to get more radical after indictment for harassing churchgoers. He says, people think I'm going to be locked up or whatever. I ain't even worried. He's not worried because he's arrogant and he's smug. Now, the comparison to the book of Judges, that I think is a little stretched there, because the judges were actually raised up by God to deliver Israel from their bondage and from their problems. The judges were not arrogant. during that time. So that comparison is not really apropos, but it was a time that that Israel was in a very bad state, and God would raise righteous judges up to help her come over. I want to play one other video tonight. We got a lot of video to play tomorrow night, but I do want to play something that we've not talked about Tucker Carlson in a long time, and I want you to listen to this. This is the anti-Semitism that continues to rage in the nation. We're going to talk with Andy Berger about this tomorrow night.
The Israelis have been happy to murder tens of thousands of children in Gaza because they believe in blood guilt. That's the truth. They say.
I want you to listen to this. This is how things are said. This is why people believe what they hear. You got Christians that believe this. You got pastors that believe this. You got churchgoers that believe this. Tucker Carlson sure believes it. Roll the tape. This is all lies, by the way.
Israelis have been happy to murder tens of thousands of children in Gaza because they believe in blood guilt.
They believe in blood. What is it? Blood guilt. Blood guilt. Whatever that means.
Blood guilt. That's the truth. They say.
That's the truth. He says it's the truth. It's not the truth.
Get out loud, Amalek. We believe in blood guilt. Like the children are responsible for the sins of their parents, so we're going to kill them.
And that is absolutely false. That is absolutely false. But that's why stuff gets started on the internet. That's why you shouldn't listen to fools like Tucker Carlson. But listen to this pastor, and I'll wrap it up after this. We've got a lot more to talk about tonight, but it's late. Interesting video I pulled off the Vex tonight. I want you to listen very carefully because this is where we're at in the church. This is where we're at in the church. Roll tape.
I want to hear something that's very foul. This past Sunday, I was preaching about President Trump and what the scripture says about how you're supposed to pray for your leaders and not judge and talk about them. I gave people several different types of scriptures about how you're not supposed to curse the king. You're supposed to pray for the king and pray for your leaders. As I'm preaching this, there are people on our online thread that were using profanity and cussing me out, and not just a few. Cussing me out, saying things like, you're out of order because you're supporting this white man. I don't support white men, black men, Hispanic men, or any other type of man. I support righteous men, and more than anything, I support what my Heavenly Father said I'm supposed to do when it comes to righteous and wicked men. So these are people that the Bible talks about in the last days who would be arrogant, prideful, full of hatred, claim that they know God when they actually don't, and deny his power. So I'm going to encourage you to stop the hate, stop all of the talk, do what your Heavenly Father said to do. There were men in the Old Testament who started out right, ended up wrong, started out wrong, ended up right, but there were prophets who were praying for them. So if you think you're okay with just cussing me out as I preach the word of God, have at it. You can answer that when you stand before God. Hit the follow button for more.
I thought that was a pretty good video. I didn't even know he said the part about the arrogant hatred part. Prophetic tonight. JC, I'm not here to debate with you. The judges themselves did not, the very reason the judges were raised up was because the people did do what was right in their own eyes. The judges, though, were raised up by God. They were righteous judges. All those judges were raised up by God to help Israel because of what they were doing. They were going into oppression and going into captivity. And these judges sometimes were not necessarily even judges. They were military leaders. And then they would judge Israel for a certain length of time and then rule. And that judge means ruler. They would rule over Israel, and then Israel would go back into these cycles. And that lasted for nearly 400 to 600 years. It was one of the worst times of Israel's history. I'm not taking issue with you, but it's not the judges that were arrogant. And to compare the arrogancy of the judges to that time is not biblically right. I'm just not to correct you, but I'm just saying people are doing things like that. And yes, the people were doing that. The people were doing that. It was a very bad time in the history of Israel. It was a very bad time. And please, I'm not here to argue with you. This is not the debate. Send me an email at MacFiles Forum, JC. I love you, but it's not the place to do it. Not here. Okay, not the place to do it here. Chris Davis, she says the anti-Semitism these days is completely off the rails. My buddy, I'm telling you something. It is off the rails, and it is getting into government. I want to show you this right here real quick. This is the Stop Anti-Semitism website or the Twitter handle, the U.S. government has a Jew problem. America is owned and funded by Israel. Move to Israel. These statements were all made by Shelley Arnaldi. She's going to be the possible chair. I want you to get this now. Not of the Democrat Fairfax, Virginia Committee, but the Fairfax, Virginia Republican Committee. And it doesn't matter. That should tell us that party does not make a difference. Party does not make a difference. But you can see the letter there, and that was sent out to the Republican leaders about her comments, and she has not backed down from them at all whatsoever. And that's anti-Semitism. That's anti-Semitism. For those of you that don't know the difference, and so forth. Anyway, all right. Any other questions? Good to see some new folks in the house tonight. And it is good to see Yoli tonight. Good to see you. Satan, I see Choctaw says Satan is destroying every institution. We've said that tonight, and you're right. Stephen, I'm with you. Praise God for Jelly Roll. He was the light. He was the only good thing about that travesty last night. And folks, that's why I don't watch award shows, and I don't plan to be watching the Oscars. I had to stomach a few clips because I wanted to hear what the crazies were saying, and there was a bunch of crazies in there last night. Nothing but America, Jew-hating, ICE-hating, law-hating people that hate God. But Jelly Roll, even though he sings music, rock music, God got a hold of him and got saved, and stood up there in the midst of them devils, in the den of devils, and stood up for Jesus. Stood up for Jesus, which was well done last night. Well done. And well done. Well done, well done. All righty, listen, we've got a lot to share with you. Andy Berger tomorrow night. She's a good friend of Eric Cairns. In fact, her and Eric have worked together with some law enforcement things through the past. He gave me her name, and Andy is a precious, precious young lady. She's going to be with us tomorrow night, and we're going to talk about child trafficking in the country. We're going to talk about some of this law enforcement things with her. Eric himself will be with us later on in this week. We're going to try to get Magdalene Rose back on to talk about the youth situation, the kids marching out. I didn't get a chance to ask James about that tonight. I'm appalled that these schools are letting these kids walk out of classrooms without any kind of impunity, but very well can't blame the kids for doing it when the teachers are doing it, and the principals are allowing it, and school boards are allowing it. So we've got anarchy. We got anarchy in the nation. We got a bunch of petulant, I think we read the verse yesterday, Saudi children who act like a bunch of sots. And that's a word for spoiled. Spoiled. Petulant children. Both the actual children, a lot of adults that act like it too. That act like a bunch of kids. That's why we need to pray. That's why we need to pray. And we need to keep our country before the Lord right now, because it's a very troublesome time. All right. Listen, it's late. It's almost midnight, so I'm going to let you go. May the Lord bless you tonight. I hope you've enjoyed our double feature. Man, that interview with Olivia Floyd tonight was so blessed earlier tonight. I hope you listen to that. If you hadn't, go to the replay. Give Jeemes Akers another thumbs up before we leave tonight. We will take more of your questions tomorrow night, play more video. We got a lot more to talk about, things that are going on in the country. I do encourage you. We got a Telegram room, the Mac Files News and Faith Network. We've got a Telegram room just called Patriot Breaking News, which has got all the headlines. So join us over there for the headlines and the news stories. And then we'll be back here in the morning, of course, on our Spirit Word Fire Network, the Faith Network only, for our Bible study. And then we'll be back here tomorrow night with Andy Berger, who is a child trafficking expert and somebody that helps fight it, has been fighting it for many years now. And she's an advocate for that we get the right kind of people in law enforcement to bring these kids home. Tom Holman reported today, do you realize that they have rescued nearly 15,000 And that number actually may be wrong. It may be 150,000. Let me see if I can find that real quick. I don't want to keep you any longer than I have to tonight. Right here it is, and I'll just read this to you. This is actually off of Dion Joseph, 145. I was way off. Border Czar Tom Holman tonight reported 145,000 missing migrant children have been located by the Trump administration in this past year, brought across the border under Biden. That's why 77 million people voted for him, nearly halfway to the 300,000 missing kids. They're almost about to find all of them. They have found almost half of them. I can guarantee you tonight, had Kamala Harris been elected, she would have found none. I would guarantee you if the Dems win these midterms, all this stops because they will put a stop to Tom Holman's activities. We better choose this day who's on the Lord's side and who ain't. That's all I got to say. And we're going to talk about this with Andy tomorrow night. God bless you. God bless your families. God bless this great nation of America. Have a good night, everybody. Put some fire in that house. Hope you enjoyed the 2 shows tonight. Have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night now. Be blessed.